right, another podcast from the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan. It's going to be a stellar podcast today. We've actually been sitting and speaking for about 45 minutes before we even turn the audio on. Right before I get into it, I want to shout out VetLife. VetLife is a 501c3 nonprofit company. It's a company of veterans for veterans. Every veteran faces difficulties when they transition from active duty back to civilian life, and VetLife is there to ease that transition. If you want to reach out to VetLife, you can do so through Instagram or Facebook, or check out their website at vetlifetoday.org. So without further ado, I want to introduce Eric Meldrum. Eric, for the people that don't know you, I want to start with the very beginning of your story. Were you born and raised here in Michigan? Did you grow up in this community? What brought you here? And then and you can talk a little bit about like what you were like as a young kid. Did you think you were going to get into real estate? Did you see your path yet? And then we'll start to craft your story to modern times.
Awesome. No, I appreciate it. And thanks for having me. This is awesome. You guys got a great studio here, and this is legit.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, so just like I said, let's start from the ground up, man. What made Eric the man that he is today?
Yeah, so born and raised in Michigan. Spent a lot of time on the east side of Detroit. That's where I was born and raised in St. Clair Shores. My big family, my dad comes from a family of 8, and I come from a family of 5. So got one older brother, 3 younger sisters, and plenty of nieces and nephews now that we're all older. But our family's been growing, and as a young kid, similar to, a lot of people on the east side of Detroit, we were just the average family, right? We were just, doing our thing, and life took an unexpected turn when I was about 10, and my mom got cancer. So we lost my mom at a very young age, my young sisters, and it was really just my dad, raising us with the help of our big family. I have 5 aunts, who stepped in and really helped with the family stuff, helped with meals, helped with everything to, provide support for us, because it was not easy on being a single dad of 5 kids. I'm sure, as most can attest to, it was really, really rough. So I look back at those times as like, that was the moment in life that nobody can ever really, really give you advice on how to handle it, or you don't expect it, and, I want to say the rest is history, but it was a tough time in my life that really shaped the direction that I went when I kind of overcame that.
And hopefully, do you have a tight-knit family now because you had gone through so much pain and suffering younger? Is your family still together? You have good bonds, you value each other, because you lived through an extremely difficult experience. I lost my mother when I was young as well, and I had an aunt step up, and she was like an angel to me in my life, and I think it shaped a lot of who I am today, that young adversity and having to build certain characteristics about yourself at an early age, before when you should just be outside playing with the ball, not having to worry about life and things that are so far beyond your control. Did your family end up creating strong bonds because of that period of life, and did you think that was important to your growth?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we all kind of bonded in a different way, right? Everyone's dealing with something a little bit unique at the time, and as we were growing, we were all really trying to figure out, where was that bond gonna take place, within the family. But we had to come together, right? We had to just come together as a family and work through it. And now that we're all grown with our own kids, we have that special bond that we look back on, and like we know that we all didn't have it easy growing up. So whatever we're going through today, it could be much worse, right? And we've already been through much worse.
That's something that is a very, very common theme in people that have struggled, is your perspective on life is so stretched. Like, you really know what tough times are, and that makes you appreciate good times. And then like an average bad day, it doesn't really register on that scale because you've had bad days, you've had painful days. And that kind of makes you a more capable human being, because you know what struggle is like. You know what heartache is like, and loss and depression. And when you've been there, you want to do everything to stay out of there, and usually inspire others to get out of that same feeling, right? Like, I found most of the people that are the best people in life have gone through a lot, and they don't want to see that in others, because you can actually empathize with that pain. Were you an athlete as a young kid? What did you do to keep your mind occupied? Because, those are extremely difficult times. And a lot of times people have a thing that they turn to. Like for me, it was video games and athletics. But was there certain things in particular that you think really helped shape you during that period?
Yeah, definitely. There was, definitely sports in my life. I played basketball growing up. That was really always an outlet. hanging out with friends, doing that stuff, and definitely got in our fair share of trouble as well. So it wasn't always on the positive side. That was a really rough time, and the dark side did take over, right? So you kind of got into things that you probably weren't supposed to get into at the time, and but I look back on that, and those experiences taught me a lot of things that I didn't want to be as a person, and really looked at some of the role models in my life, my aunts and my family members, and especially my dad, of how I wanted to live the rest of my life. I was given an opportunity to look at life a little bit differently than most people do because of such a traumatic experience. And I think I captured that pretty well. And it wasn't always easy, but here we are.
And 100%, man, words, you can get all the advice in the world. You can have your parents telling you don't do this thing and that thing, but experiences are everything. When you go through experience, that's where, like, deep down in who you are, the essence of who you are, when you do the wrong things, eventually you will reflect on those and say, like, you know what, that is not who I am. That's not a good representation of my character. That's not the type of man I want to be in this experience. But you almost need that experience, well, most people do, to figure out where you fall on, like, the moral compass. What should I do? And I think it's an extreme sign of maturity when you're at a point in your life where you can look back and you're thankful for those times. You're grateful, because had you not gone through those times, you wouldn't be the man you were today, right? And you got to find out who you were, because as soon as you start disconnecting from those decisions, you start being like, that's not really me. That's not who Eric Meldrum is in this world. I'm not the person that's going around and harming people. And this is just oftentimes, like, an expression of pain that's inside goes outward. And when you start to figure your way through that, then you start to become someone you're proud of, and then life opens up for you. You have endless opportunity, possibility. So out of high school, what did you see as your future track? Like, did you have goals set in your mind? Did you know what you wanted to become yet? Did you have an idea did life shock you with a new path? Let's talk about that period of your life.
Yeah, no clue, to be honest with you. No clue what I wanted to do after high school. That was, graduating high school, and then I was like, all right, am I going to go to college? Am I not going to go to college? I tried community college for a little bit, really wasn't feeling it. And then I got an opportunity through one of my friends who was doing some construction work. I said, hey, it's paying really well. And at the time, we didn't come from much. So I was like, I jumped at the opportunity. I went into doing roofing, which for anybody looking to get into roofing, do it or don't do it. Not for me, right? And I look at that as one of those experiences that I was like, all right, I did that for 2 years, and through that experience, it put me on a different path, right? So had I not gone through that experience of taking that job and waking up 5 a.m., getting to the job site by 5:30, we were on the roof before it was even dark or light out, right? Tearing 3 to 4 roofs off a day, reshingling them. I mean, my back was like leather from being tan, and my body was so sore. And here I am as a 21-year-old, young adult, like, am I really going to live like this the rest of my life? And I saw some of the guys who were in the trades much longer than me. They had addiction problems, they had alcoholism problems. And I was like, no, I'm not going down this road. I can see where my body's going, and I probably will end up turning to those things to ease pain, with that. So that kind of scared me straight in terms of what I wanted to do. And I said, I got to get out of this situation. I need to go to college. So I picked up, and I remember vividly, I was in my basement with my dad on the computer, and I said, Dad, I want to register to go to college in Kalamazoo. He goes, well, what's in Kalamazoo? I said, well, Western Michigan's in Kalamazoo. He goes, well, did you apply to get in? I said, no, I'm just going to register for the community college. And then once, because I didn't have good enough grades in high school to go, and once you're out of high school, you have to use your transcript anyways. So I registered with the community college, and then did 2 years at community college, and then finished my degree at Western Michigan right after.
That's awesome. So you got a real taste of the way that a lot of people live their lives. A lot of people get, and I like the fact that you said you had an opportunity. A lot of times people now, they want their life to be this, like, excellent story or this success thing or having all the money or exactly what they want to do. But a lot of the times you have to build to that. You have to get to that. I love that you said, like, you know what? It was an opportunity. And I took advantage of it. I was making a little bit of money, but it gave me a clear view on what this life would entail and whether that was a path for me or not. And that kind of, I like that you said, scared you straight. You were like, okay, listen, this is not for me. Grinding like this every single day, and seeing what the result of it can be is just not the path I want to take. I have a professional fighter in here actually that does roofing as his job, and he's a professional fighter on top of that. He trains 2-3 hours a night on top of roofing. I don't know how he does it.
That's crazy.
I can't even comprehend it. And the kid is an animal, and maybe that's why, because his body can just push to limits that most of our people can't even come close to. So it shocks you. You say, I'm not going to do this. I want to go back to college. What are you going back to college for? Is it like, I'm just going to get an education and kind of see what doors open up? Or did you start to formulate a path?
Yeah, so I had no idea. I just knew I needed to get out of that situation, that I was in and do something. At the time, this is back in like 2007, 7-ish, 2006, 2007-ish, where if you wanted to go work for a corporation or get a good job, you needed a college degree. It wasn't widely accepted like it is today, where you can just go be a content creator, or you can go do whatever you want to do. You want to start a podcast, you want to start a YouTube channel, you want to be a TikTok famous, anything and everything is possible nowadays. And I would probably argue that, you don't need a college degree. College degree really just says that you can be taught, something, right? So if you really want to learn, so I didn't go to college with any specific occupation in mind. I just knew I needed to get out of the situation. So I started taking the general classes. The one thing that, really did shape what I wanted to do, what I ended up going and getting my degree in, was I needed to work during college. So, I didn't have a free ride, and I was paying my way through college, right? I didn't get scholarships. I didn't have anything. I needed to take out student loans, but I also needed to support myself from a living perspective. I needed to pay rent because I wasn't going to be in the dorms and all the food and everything that you need to buy books. So I had to get a job. And I remember my dad coming home like 2 weeks after I had already signed up for classes. And he goes, hey, I just had this guy in my store. His name was David Howard, and he owned a Red Bull distributor in Kalamazoo. And he was originally from like the West Bloomfield, Birmingham area. And I told him, you're going to school there. And I asked him if you could have a job. And he said yes. So he said yes to working in the warehouse, while you were going to school. So that 20-hour a week or 15-hour a week job ended up turning into like 30, 40 hours a week. I was working pretty much full time all through college. And I liked a lot about what I was doing there. So it was a logistics, kind of warehousing, inventory control type role. I was doing, eventually grew my way into from loading trucks to optimizing all the routes, for the distribution channels, and loading inventory levels for trucks to make sure they had enough supply to service all their accounts for, 1 to 2 to 3 days on the road, where they would then come back and replenish. So I learned a lot about the supply chain in that role. So Western Michigan, I come to find out in my, kind of sophomore, junior year, has a wonderful supply chain management department. So I ended up declaring my major as a supply chain management degree and graduated with that. Senior year in college, I ended up, met my girlfriend at the time, now wife, Brianna Meldrum. She started working, she graduated before me, and she started working at a company called Aerotech, which is a staffing company. So they are recruiting, and looking for talent to fill roles for organizations. So I went to their Christmas party, and I remember talking to this guy, Scott Flagel, and he literally, we had a great conversation, and it was just, a night out, right? We were just shooting the shit and going with it. And I get a call next Monday, and he goes, hey man, I got a question. Would you be interested in interviewing for a role here in Kalamazoo? It's an inventory control, kind of import, export specialist role. And I said, well, I'm in my senior year of school. Like, I don't know that a corporation's going to really take me. He goes, dude, don't even worry about it. He goes, literally, this company is cool as hell. They are looking for somebody. They've been having trouble finding the right person to fit the culture because it was a startup. And I said, all right, fine, I'll go check it out. So I interviewed with the company, met with the director of operations, met with the CEO, met with the COO and the CFO, and they made me an offer, knowing that I was going to school, full time, with my experience with Red Bull, doing the warehousing. They just made me a full-time offer, and they said you can work 20 hours, 30 hours, like around your schedule. And that is another pivotal time in my life that just set the trajectory for my career. Now, it doesn't bring me to real estate, but we'll get there. But that's where that took off. So my whole entire college career, I was accustomed to just working full time. right? And there's so many lessons that I've learned through that.
Man, that's massive. And that actually touches on a point that I try so hard to get young people to realize is everything you do matters. The way your conversations, your actions, your energy, the way you carry yourself, because your story is having these little points that is changing the trajectory of your life. And you giving your best or just being a genuine person there in that conversation when you're out at your wife's Christmas party. It's just a Christmas party. You could have gone there and got hammered as a college student and been a mess, right? You could have done anything. There's in parallel universes, Eric Meldrum could have showed up in a wide variety of ways.
Done that.
Yeah, exactly. But in that moment, someone seeing you for what you brought to the table and who you were, right? When, you know what, he went back and was like, this guy might fit. There's an opportunity here. And then that puts you on another trajectory that opens doors for you. So I try to remind people, especially people that are struggling with depression or like difficult times, the smallest conversation in your life could drastically alter the course of your life. An opportunity could come from that. A business deal could come from that. A career could come from that. And you're living proof of that. You had that experience through a wife's Christmas party. That's really cool. So then all of a sudden you attach your major to what you're in now. You kind of probably get a good start. Are you and your wife at the time, well, girlfriend at the time, living in Kalamazoo? Are you just staying in the dorms? And then, let's talk about how did that start to come together from that point? You now got this great job. You're about to graduate college. You've got your family, which it's great to hear she's your wife nowadays. I love hearing stories of people that kind of stuck it out for each other. It's like really easy in this era with social media and all the crap that's out there to just be like, let's just go separate ways. It's awesome to hear stories of people that have stayed by each other because it's not easy. Relationships are tough, especially now. Let's start to craft the next stages of your story. You're doing well. You got hired. You're about to graduate. You got your woman by your side. What happens next for Eric Meldrum?
Yeah, so I didn't know if I was actually going to stay with this company, very long term. It was one of those things. It was a startup. It was doing really well. It was. I had a lot of opportunity to go to the traditional path of I was in supply chain, so I could have went to Ford. Heavy recruiters from Western, Ford, GM, John Deere. A lot of the plants around here, and they had a lot of attractive things for a growth career, right? And I just remember kind of looking at a lot of my friends who were graduating, and they graduated before me, and I caught up with them because I was about a year behind. So everybody that I was kind of friends with was always graduating a year before me, because I took a little bit longer in the community college, days. So I remember asking them about, how do they like working for Ford? How do they like working for this? What are you actually doing on a day-to-day basis? What's your job description and your day-to-day? And I remember vividly one of them, going through and was like, well, I'm in the purchasing department and I order this one washer for this one vehicle program. And I'm like, are you serious? You order a washer all day long? You're negotiating contracts for a washer that it probably costs 13 cents? I was, yep. And that was it for me. I was like, I'm not going to Ford. I'm not going to GM. I didn't want that.
You're not going to be the washer guy your whole life. You're not just going to be.
I'm not going to be that one product guy.
At the end of the day, no disrespect to the people that choose that path, but when you were saying that to me, I was like, there's no way. There's no innovation there. There's no creativity. There's no stretching boundaries and me developing new skills. I mean, maybe sales skills, maybe communication on a basic level, but to me, that is not exciting at all. And I could see in your face, you felt the same way.
Yeah, I felt the same way exactly. And I'd already gotten, and this is about a year into my first role in supply chain with a company. It was called Mophie. They made the cell phone cases with the battery in them. So they were blowing up. When I joined the company, we had $35 million in revenue. And by the end of the first year, we had already clipped about $60 million in revenue. That was just my first year with them. And they were on this huge growth trajectory. And I remember talking to them about, my role compared to what they were doing at Ford and GM. And they're like, well, what are you up to? And I'm like, well, I am importing all the stuff from China. I am helping with logistics, transportation, and warehousing, inventory control, and all these things. And I'm getting this broad overview of the supply chain at the time. And I just remember thinking to myself, I am so much more well-rounded in terms of understanding the whole ecosystem when it comes to supply chain. And I remember actually talking to some of my professors that first year, and they were catching up and like, what are you up to? And I'm like, well, I just took this full-time role and I'm doing this and this and this. And like, holy crap. Like you have more experience than most people 2 to 3 years out of school that are working for some of these big corporations. And so I knew at that time that experience, I couldn't get anywhere else, right? I was in a unique position that I needed to learn as much as I could about how this business and the international business, because this was a buzzword at the time. Like this is when like everybody was talking about, are we going offshore? Are we nearshoring? And all these things from China were just blowing up. So I had a great opportunity. I stuck with the company for about 3.5 years after that. Ended up moving out to California with.
What made that spark? I'm always fascinated by like big change in life, like leave a company, move out of state. What sparked that change?
Yeah, so we at this point in the company, we were we got to the point in revenue where we were about 150 million. Right, so I was there about 3.5 years, and we've gone from 35 million to 250 million in revenue by the time I left. So a year before I moved to California, we were probably doing like 150, 175, and we had massive growth. So we were opening up new logistics centers. I was flying to the Netherlands, opening up logistics centers. I was across North America, opening up logistics platforms and developing new logistic lanes with our partners, UPS and FedEx at the time, and just any air carrier. So we were doing all these really cool things that, like, for me and my age, I would have never had an opportunity to do at any other company. So that big spark was, now the team is bigger. And throughout this, what I haven't shared is that there was only really 2 guys in the supply chain. It was myself and another individual. So I was handling like all the inventory, all the logistics, getting things from point A to point B, and he was doing purchasing. Okay. And we got to the point where like, we can't do all this on our own. Like we're surviving, we're not thriving, right? We could be doing so much better. We could have a better control of our inventory. We could have better control of the amount that we're purchasing, better, projections and forecasting for our customers, our suppliers, and just really diving into a lot of details. So we started building out our ops team. We hired a new senior VP of operations. He started building a team. And when he was restructuring, the organization from the supply chain perspective, he looked at everybody and I was on the chopping block. Like either I was going to be continuing with the company, or I was probably, going to be overhired and stay where I am. So he made me an offer to come out to California, because that's where he wanted his central operations, and he gave me a phenomenal opportunity to take over as the director of logistics for the entire organization. Which, at the time, I was like, it doesn't really matter what my title is. I'm like, I'm doing the same thing anyways. So yeah, sure. Like me and my wife, and before we moved out there, she wasn't even my wife. I remember vividly. I didn't really have to convince her to go to California. It wasn't that hard of a push, but we were still dating, and I knew she was the one. So I ended up proposing to her in February of 2015, and we were on a wine tour up in Old Mission Peninsula, and I proposed to her, and then like a week after, I said, "Oh, hey, by the way, we have an opportunity to go to California."
Gotcha. And you're coming with me now.
and you already said yes.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So yeah, you're crushing it at this point, because hearing your story and to be viewing business in general, what you are viewing on a step back overall view of this company is like business around the world. You are learning how to operate supply chain businesses at your age, crushing it. You understand all of the moving dynamics. You could really set up almost any company you wanted, or you could get hired into a million opportunities out there. I'm listening to your spot. You don't have a slice of the pie. You're the guy underneath maybe just the founders of the company that is making things move, right? So you go out to California, life's on track. You're going to get married. You're probably making a ton of money. How does California not stay in the picture? Because, that's right on the coast. It's gorgeous out there. It's better weather than Michigan. What ends up bringing you back?
Yeah, so we loved California. We look at it as our kind of like long honeymoon, if you will. We were in the honeymoon phase before we were even married. Great location. We were just inland of Orange County. So we had Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, really close. We were living in Irvine. The office was Irvine as well. So we enjoyed it out there, but the company unfortunately went through some restructuring of its own. The company grew really fast, right? So even though we had really high growth and revenues were coming in, there was a lot of spending, going on with the organization as well, building out new offices, building out new suppliers, new products. They were all very capital intensive. And this was actually one of the first companies that took out a new Super Bowl ad in, I think it was 2016 is when they had this Super Bowl ad come out. I remember hearing about this, and everyone was like, there hasn't been a new Super Bowl advertiser in like 10 years. It was Pepsi, Coca-Cola.
Yeah, they used to always talk about that. It was like $1 million a minute, like way back in the day. And then it got more and more and more. I mean, that was like the prime time to advertise the greatest corporations in the country or around the world would be the Super Bowl. We all knew that, and your company's doing that. So it sounds like they had such exponential growth that they probably were almost starting to bite off more than they could chew, thinking that the growth would never end.
A little bit. And, I look back at that time, and I was hypercritical of what was going on in the company, because everyone always has an opinion. If you're an employee at a company, you're always judgmental of what the leadership team is doing. And in hindsight, like, I was immature at that time, right? Not knowing enough about business, enough to be dangerous, but not enough to have that type of opinion. And I look back at that, and I don't envy the position the leadership team was in, because they had to make critical decisions about how they wanted to grow the company, how they wanted to spend, for the future growth and hiring plans. And yes, did they bite off more than they can chew at the end of the day? Probably, right? Did they know they were doing it at the time? Probably not. So there was a lot of things internally going on that I just kind of recognized at the time. I didn't know if they were good. I didn't know if they were bad, but I knew enough that there was turbulence coming within the organization. And I knew, being in California with my fiance and not knowing anybody out there, not having any connections, like, if something goes south with this role, I'm kind of in a place where I don't really want to be, because my family's all from Michigan. So I kind of looked at it, and my wife and I talked it over, and I said, I think it might be time to kind of pack up and head home. We knew California was never a long-term place for us, maybe 3 to 5 to 10 years. 10 years is probably too long, but, we were just like, let's go do it, take the opportunity. We're young, no kids. But I saw what was going on. I talked to her, and we ended up deciding to move back. So I started looking for an exit plan, and, that's what kind of sparked us to come back to Michigan. Was there were some things going south with the company that I just kind of saw from a distance and said, I don't want to stick around to see where it ends.
Man, and that's huge that you didn't let the fear of that control you. A lot of people start panicking in that situation, and that you were just like, you know what, I have to have an exit plan. I have to handle this professionally. I have to come up with a game plan of, like, what do I want to do? Where can I go? My family's all there. I would like to take my, future wife back home. And, like, now you have unbelievable experience. Like I said, that can be poured into almost anything. So you make the jump, you come back home. Did you already have a job lined up, or did you just shoot it here? You came back and you guys...
No, I'm too calculated for that. I can't, for me, I just can't pick up and go. So yes, I had a job lined up. I had been talking with some old college friends who had started a company. I kind of saw what they were doing. They started a supply chain consulting and advisory company in Ann Arbor. So I connected with them. They had a position open, and I jumped at the opportunity to, get back into, my hometown. Ann Arbor's not my hometown, but, like, state of Michigan, and really connect back with the entrepreneurial community. That was really what I wanted to do, was get into more helping startups and really crafting my experience growing supply chain operations at such a large scale in such a short amount of time, and put that back into some of the companies that needed that high growth trajectory.
Now, what timeline is this? Like, I'm just trying to come up with a perspective, that, because we're going to get into your real estate now and what you're doing now. What timeline is this transition back to Michigan?
Yeah, so this was 2015, we came back to Michigan and started working for the company called Industry Star.
Now, did you work this all the way up to the now 2020 experience? Because that's obviously a huge part of everyone's story now. I joke around and say, in the year 0, we had before Christ, and 2020 is before COVID. It's the second BC of human beings, because it's almost like we live in a different experience now. Did you stay in Ann Arbor with that company for a long period, or did it quickly change direction once you got back home?
So it was about a year and a half with that company, and then I ended up getting poached from one of our clients that was starting a vitamin startup here in Plymouth. So I went and took a role as director of supply chain for that company. Stayed with that company for about a year and a half. In hindsight, and startups are not always going to work out, right? So that was one of the startups that just didn't make it to that next level where they wanted to hire out and build out the plan like they originally painted the picture. So I started looking actually at the end of that year with that company. I started looking to make a shift into supply chain software. And one of the things that I picked up when I was working for Mophie the 3 years was we were implementing new systems all the time. So we implemented ERP systems. We implemented trade management programs that we could help manage the company. So I was a pivotal part of that, and I took a lot of that experience and I gravitated towards like, how do we move data around? How do we actually systematize these things? And I knew that's kind of what I wanted to do. Right, the day-to-day of the supply chain is great, but what they don't tell you about the supply chain is that it's a really undervalued position in a company. Nowadays, when in 2022, it's like supply chain this, supply chain that. Everybody hears about the supply chain. 5 years ago or 3 years ago, everybody hated the supply chain. You only heard about the supply chain when there was issues, right? And that's kind of what we hear about today. So I just knew that was I was traveling all over the world. I was doing all these cool things, but I was starting to get settled down. My wife had gotten pregnant in 2015, and we were expecting our first in 2016. So at that point, I'm like, you know what? I need to slow down. I need to really be here for my family. I don't want to be the dad that's off doing, 20 trips a year to China or the Netherlands. I needed to be home, right? I needed to support her. So I started looking for kind of a more secure role with an organization, and I ended up linking up with a company out of Troy, Michigan called Plex Systems, and they are one of the largest ERP providers for manufacturing, and they had an acquisition for a supply chain planning software, and that just really fit, right? So
and you've lived in this world, so you understand what helps efficacy and what makes the job easier, and how to be innovative and take a system that could be archaic if you did it. Like you could write notes on who you're ordering from it, and that would be disastrous. Or you could make innovative new programs and softwares to make the job so much more efficient that at the drop of a hat you could be able to check routes and check orders. And that's the goal, right? Is you want to bring things to as simple as humanly possible. The more we can do that, usually the more success that yields from it. But I'm still fascinated because I keep hearing supply chain, but I know you from real estate. Like when I look you up, I know you from real estate. So I can tell you start getting the idea, I got to be home more. I want to be with my family. I want to do well. I have all these particular skill sets, but it is a very different world. What leads to that jump? Was it a conversation with a person that takes you that way? Did you just search real estate one day? How do we get there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't get there like I would have expected myself to get there. So kind of getting out of supply chain, I dabble in a lot of different stuff. Like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, like, I'm tasting.
You listen to motivational speakers?
Yes.
I can tell. I could tell immediately when I met you, certain people radiate a certain energy, and because we seek that energy out. We enjoy that motivation, that positive, that go get it. Gary V, Les Brown, Eric Thomas, these guys are killers at that stuff, 100%.
Yeah, so he always says taste, right? Taste everything and then see what you like. So I did. I literally like ran through a ton of different options. Am I going to do some drop shipping? Am I going to do start an e-commerce business? Am I going to go sell stuff on Amazon? Like, can I do some digital product? Can I start?
And is this like 2018,
This is around 2017, 2018. Yeah, I start dabbling in a lot of this different stuff. And real estate starts coming up because I'm in software development. That's been part of, a couple of the companies I was with, the company I'm with now at Plex Systems. There's some software things going on. And I start thinking to myself, like, okay, can I do something innovative in the real estate space with software? Can I do something with products in the real estate space? And then I was like, should I just get my real estate license? Should I just have that as a backup? Right? I see a bunch of realtors out here. As of 2008, the market was starting to get a little bit hot, coming off of all the stuff that we heard about in 2008. And so I just started digging into that more. And I'm looking at the real estate agent persona. I'm like, yeah, they're driving a BMW, right? They're making buco bucks. And that's so far from the truth, right? Of what anybody would think real estate is like. But I gravitated towards that persona. I'm like, okay, let me just get my real estate license. This will serve me in multiple ways. So I ended up getting my license, joining a team, and just doing real estate, quote unquote, part time, while I was working my corporate job. So I did that for the foreseeable future, until I could figure out a way to make real estate the full-time thing.
So how were you networking those connections? Was it just through friends and kind of like throwing it out there, social media? Like what got the ball rolling? Because real estate really is people. It's the ability to connect with people and have them think of you for a service. Because, yeah, there are real estate agents that crush it. There's a gentleman around here that does the helicopter tours, and Dylan is his name.
Yeah.
He does helicopter tours of these $1 million homes, but those are usually the outliers. There's a boatload of people in real estate, but some that really rise through the ranks. How did you start the networking part of that? Was it just so casual in the way of like, hey, I have my real estate license too. If you want to think of me in this, reach out. Or what avenues did you start pursuing? Because as a man that understands supply chain management, I bet that you are good at taking a step back and figuring out how to put pieces together to make something work.
Yeah, so I had to figure out what type of real estate agent I wanted to be, right? And there's so many different lead generation things that you can do to generate business, and not all of them would fit my personality, nor would they fit the business model that I really wanted to build. And as somebody who's working full time, I didn't have, and by the way, I just had our first kid at that time, so now we got an infant, in the house, and I was working 9 to 5, got a baby, marriage is still new, so I don't have all this time to go out and go network, right? Go meet people for coffee, go do this. So I remember, at the time I was with a different brokerage, and I went into the broker's office and said, hey, I was on a team, I'm going to get off a team and I'm going to go solo, right? And I really want to know what type of support I'm going to get from this brokerage to help take my business to the next level. And I remember her looking at me and she goes, what do you mean you're working full time? You need to quit that job and take real estate seriously. And it was such a slap in the face to me that that probably, it might've been some of the best advice I ever got, but I took it so personally because I'm like, are you going to pay my bills? Like I have a family to support. I'm trying to make a go at real estate. And you're telling me I just need to quit and go do real estate full time with no desired or no income coming in at all. And that for me was just like, okay, I'm gonna go a different way here, right? That was just like the repel that just took me out of that brokerage. And my business has always been built off of social media and advertising, through marketing. And I had to do that because I didn't know anybody. We were in Ann Arbor. We moved to Brighton, around 2016. We don't know anybody around here. My wife's from Flint. I'm from Metro Detroit. So we're technically transplants into Livingston County, and we're now restarting and building our network. Okay, so I had to pick what pool the people I'm going to really hunt. People I know, which they're all in Metro Detroit or Flint, and I don't want to serve those markets. I want to serve in my backyard, or I'm going to start hunting for people I don't know. So,
and is your wife in on the brainstorming of this, or is she just kind of taking care of the kids, being there for you as the family member? Like, are you two taking this as a project together? Or if you're solo, where did you start? I want to understand the blank sheet in your mind and then how you started to kind of create your processes.
Yeah, so my wife could not be more disinterested in the real estate business. As much as I try to get her in and say, hey, do you want to do some event coordination and things for customer appreciation for clients? She's like, I love our kids and I love you, and that's your thing. I want to support you by taking care of everything else.
And honestly, if that is her energy and her role, it's better that she stays outside of it, because I know you're probably a person that, like me, where if I'm going to go all in, anyone that's in my group around me, you got to go all in, or I'm going to be holding you to standards that you're not going to be happy with.
100%.
Even my fiance, if she went in on something with me, like I'm going to be like, you need to step up too, But my fiance has the exact same opinion. She's like, you have your thing. I love how passionate you are. I love how into things you are, but like that's your world, and I'll just be the role that I need to be. And it actually works amazing. But at first I had like, come on, like I'm going to get her on board, because you want the person you love to be as bought in and like on board with your passion, your dream, your drive. But really, I think in hindsight, I think it's best that my fiance is not. I can only speak for me, but I think it's better that she allows me to be just 1,000% and she plays her role.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And that's really how we operate too. It's, there's things that I don't need to worry about in the household that just, it gets done. Right. And if she was in it day to day with me, then everything would be split 50-50. And, it works for us. Right. So and it sounds like it works for you guys. That's just how it goes.
And I mean, I always kind of come up with this analogy that like there needs to be someone driving the ship. If you put two wheels and two people at the front of a ship, it's going to be a disaster at times because someone's going to go, I think we should do this, and I think we should do. You almost need a entrusted leader that is taking a project or a program or a process in a direction. And when you have multiple influences, all of a sudden you want to check with the other, but you want to check with the other captain. You want to get their opinion. It makes you question if your answer is the right way. You know what I mean? And it's probably for the best that you go, okay, this is my project and program. So start to talk about, you have a blank canvas. You're a transplant in this area. I like how you said that. And you want this to be your community. How do you start to create community network processes, et cetera?
Yeah. So, again, I'm working full time and I had to go out and find clients. So I did that through social media, right? Started diving into that world, and anything that I get into, just like you and I were chatting offline about doing a bunch of research, like I'm researching, I'm digging deep into how do I build a real estate business? What are some of the lead gen tactics that I could implement in my business that would serve me? So I went really, really heavy on social media marketing, Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, and went down that rabbit hole, got into groups, started networking with people that were doing similar things, that were already doing high lead gen online, doing Google PPC, and I just entrenched myself with all of the information I could find on that. Ended up joining a couple of groups, ended up finding my business partner in one of those Facebook groups, and we became really good friends at the time. We weren't business partners until the beginning of last year, where we really just mastermind together. We were two people who were sharing similar interests and really going hard at the same thing, which is online marketing. And then we finally just made the decision, like, why are we doing the same thing? We just need to lock arms and go for it. So, I went deep down that to find the clients and then work the systems. And I'm a big fan of leverage, right? So now I had to figure out, okay, I got some clients, I want to see some houses. How do I do this with my schedule? So really had to figure out, how do I show homes? How do I position my business? How do I let somebody know I'm not, full-time in real estate without letting on that I'm not full-time in real estate? So I came up with just so many different ways to leverage tasks and things that I needed to do in my business to either a VA or somebody to go show a house, and I positioned it as my team member, right? If I couldn't get, to the showing myself, hey, one of my team members is going to go show the house, and I just paid another agent to go do it, right? I'm writing the contracts, I'm doing the negotiations. All you need somebody to do is open the door. Right.
That's brilliant. You're leveraging people and you're making it a win-win. There's something in it for them, and then you're still able to continue growing. You're able to continue improving your processes while providing a great service. You're not having to provide a 10% service to your customer, because then that's a reflection of your brand. You're still finding a way to get everything done and creating a win-win for multiple people. So as someone from the outside of the real estate, I actually got my real estate license before I got into any of this, way back in like 2007, I think I got my real estate license. And I remember the market absolutely tanked, and I was like, I'm not going into this, because it was the worst time ever. And I was just like, I'm not. But I got my real estate license way back in the day, but I never really got into it. With that being said, there's multiple models that I understand from the outside. There's like team models where everyone's kind of working in a shared goal. Like, does that mean that if you're a part of the team, you directly split everything that team produces? Or is it, help me understand as a person on the outside, the different styles of real estate, and then which one spoke to you? Because it sounds like, I'm trying to lead into the conversation we were having earlier. It sounds like there's multiple real estate models out there. Which ones were appealing to you? Why did they pull you in that direction? And then when did you go from, I'm starting to create this project, to leaving? Did you leave your regular job? I guess I didn't even ask you that. At some point in your story.
At some point, yep.
Now you're doing real estate full time, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so How does that evolution take place, and how do you find the right fit for you in real estate? And as someone that doesn't understand real estate, or if people are listening to this podcast that want to understand why to choose you as an agent or the different levels, let's just talk about that stuff.
Yeah, this is probably one of my more passionate topics in real estate. Like, there's so many different brokerage models out there. There's so many different team structures, and most real estate agents that are getting into the business, they really look at the brokerage model first, because everybody who gets their license, they have to go and declare a broker. So you need to select your broker. You can't do real estate. You can't sell real estate unless a broker clears your transaction, and you can't become a broker until you have 3 years experience as a real estate agent. Okay, you don't have to sell any homes. You just have to be licensed for 3 years to then go apply for your broker's license.
So you could be your own broker and your own real estate agent. That would be the ideal model if you trust that you can steer your ship in the right direction, because then you're not reporting to a brokerage, but you don't have the clientele and the leads and the leverage that they have probably.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and the way you position that kind of leads into how I want to explain that is, when you look at the brokerage model and you really figure out who you're going to go hang your license with, most people are accustomed to go to the brokerage that is the most popular in their area. Okay. And the most popular means they may have the top producers, right? And those top producers then eventually draw in people into the brokerage because you see so-and-so doing, so many transactions every single year. Like, it seems like every other day they're selling a house or doing this. And naturally, you have a natural law of attraction to that. As a real estate agent, you want success to breed success. So you end up going to that brokerage. Now, within those brokerages, the brokerage is just the parent company. Like, you have to join a brokerage.
So brokerage, from my understanding, is just like the umbrella that you're going to be operating under, or the tree, but you're going to be a branch of this tree that is completely separate than
exactly. Look at it like financial planning. When you do your financial planning, the person doing all of your trades for your finances, they do it through a clearinghouse, right? You don't really ask who the clearinghouse is, but in real estate, for some reason, everybody asks, like, who's your broker? Who's your brokerage?
It's funny because when I'm hearing you say this, when I know I'm not wired the way the average people are, but like, I would not care at all about what brokerage I was with, because I'm my brand. You're going to work with me 100%. Because of me. I don't even think about, I don't care if it said KW or blah, 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 or whichever the most popular is. That's irrelevant. People are going to choose to work with me because of me. They're not going to. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find the broker that gives me the best deal, or that makes things the best on that end of it, because I am the brand. At the end of the day, people will choose to work with James Gray because of their relationship with me, or their trust in me, or what they've seen me produce, versus why do I care if this person works for that's not me. But now I might be wired differently.
Yeah, you're wired differently. And what everything's taught us in real estate, and most real estate agents look at this as the brokerage is going to help them do something, right? And I've never relied on any brokerage to help me do anything. Once I got the answer that you need to quit your job and go into real estate full time, and when I asked the questions about the support, and the answers were kind of lackluster.
Yeah, what do they do for you? Because if they have this unbelievable producer, let's say, because you're saying most people are drawn to go to the brokerage with the most successful people. The brokerage has this unbelievable producer that is making them a ton of money, that's crushing it for them. And now you walk in the door and you're like, hey, I'm here because you guys are popular and because this person's crushing it. What are they going to do for you to bring you to that person's level? Like, what are they doing? Help me understand that.
That's the question everybody asks, right? Like, and I'm still asking that question, like, what value are you providing? And when you look at a brokerage and even a team in the general sense, you have to be asking, what value exchange am I going to get for the amount that I'm going to pay into this brokerage, right? There's brokerages out there you can go to 100% commission to you, right? You pay a monthly fee, but on the other side, free is not free, right? You're going to pay something or sacrifice something. You could be sacrificing training. So if you're going to 100% brokerage, how do you think they're going to afford to provide some of the best training to you? How do you think they're going to provide software to help you run your business? How are they going to provide X, Y, and Z? Because they have no capital, right? It's just some guy who had a great idea that's like 100% brokerage. Great. Now everyone's kind of on their own.
So you really got to find the brokerage that makes sense for your personality type, your work ethic, the way you live, because I mean, that for someone could be the best opportunity in the world. If you're if you're incredible with marketing and people and relationships and brand recognition and these things. If you're great at that, that might be perfect for you. But it might be the worst case scenario possible for Susan that just got her real estate license, that is trying to get started in a field that doesn't really have networking or people skills, and they're just kind of leaving you on your own like, hey, good luck. Like, so I didn't realize how diverse the brokerage side of things were.
And that's where teams really come in too. So we talked about teams a little bit earlier. So you can go on a real estate team. The benefit of going on a real estate team is that you're going to get that mentorship. You're going to get that back end of the business really hopefully supplied for you. And I will caution anybody looking to join a team, like, do your due diligence. Make sure that team is not just some agent that grew too quickly for his own production that now needs to pass off all the crappy leads and all the stuff that they don't want to handle to the other agent, where you're just picking up scraps, and that agent is off selling 100 homes still, but they're not really providing you any support. They don't have a transaction coordinator. So you need to ask questions, like dig in and really ask, like, when somebody says, I'm going to give you support, ask, what support are you going to give me? Show me what support and who is going to provide that support, so I know tangibly what I am getting for the amount of money I am paying into the brokerage, or the amount of money I'm going to split with whatever team I join.
100%. Words are words. You need to check the actions behind those words to make sure that there's validity to the statements, right? So let's not, because I don't want this to sound, if any other brokerage listens, I don't want it to be in any way an attack on other models or other examples. But let's talk about your company now a little bit. Let's talk about, why is it True Living Group? So why True Living Group is different? What models spoke to you? Which one did you experience that you were like, listen, this is it for me. This is a better program. We were kind of talking into before about a lot of old systems are funnels to the top. You're this level of employee is the mass of the company, right? And then everything kind of funnels up to the success just goes to a few select people. And there's a new style of business coming around where tribal teams are formed, or tight-knit networks of people that are really supporting each other and trying to pull each other up as a group, where instead of this massive bottom and a very, very small top of this pyramid, you're elevating so many people to higher levels. What spoke to you? Where did you differentiate the difference and start to go, you know what, this is the direction I would like to go. This is what's best. How did you start your own company? Like, this is a super intriguing part of the story. I'm really excited to hear it.
Yeah, so I'm with eXp Realty. They're a national and global brokerage, publicly traded company on the NASDAQ as well. And I ended up choosing eXp because of a couple of reasons, and I'll go into, there's a lot of other reasons too, but like the main reason for me was opportunity. Right? We talked about that a lot before, is like looking at different situations as an opportunity. So a couple of the benefits of a brokerage like eXp is you have the opportunity to build a kind of like I'll just explain it as like a mini brokerage underneath the brokerage, right? We call it our tribal agents, and we build out those tribal agents and we pour back into them to help train, help support in their business. A lot of the things that the brokerage ends up doing as well, but we are able to pick up the phone, talk through some issues that somebody might be having, mastermind with people all around the U.S., and really build businesses that we all have a financial interest in, okay? We all own the brokerage as well, since we own it through the stock, and we have incentive to actually help other agents in their business. And this was game-changing for me when I looked at, building a team and having the worries. Like, you build any business and you're always going to have the worry of somebody growing with the team or the business, and then they leave, right? So as soon as you leave that business, guess what, you have to replace that employee, and that whole financial relationship where they, every employee is an ROI, right? It doesn't matter if you're the janitor or the marketing person. Like, you have an ROI to bring in revenue. Without the revenue, this thing doesn't work. Right. So, when I look at it that way, and I thought about the agents that I wanted to bring onto my team, I always had that fear of like, I got to replace. And whether you think you're a recruiter in real estate or not, you are. You are a recruiter, and you're always trying to attract talent. Okay. Whether it's come to the brokerage because it's the best family, or come to my team, right? Because I can provide the best support and get you the best training, or help build your business. Now, if any of those agents ever left my team, with the model I'm with today, I have financial incentive to help them build their business, because as they grow and build their own team and bring agents on, and they help those agents do the same thing, then I'm rewarded for that in the brokerage. So it's a different model, right? It's not for everybody. That's what I always tell people when I talk about it. It's not for everybody, but if you truly see the value and you do want an exit plan in real estate, because there's a saying in real estate agents don't retire, they just die. And it's the God's honest truth. Like, how many people do you know that are 80 years old still selling real estate because they didn't have an exit plan? They didn't have an opportunity. Maybe they invested in stock. Maybe they invested in some real estate and had rental properties and this and that. But these are additional things beyond what you would get from a traditional brokerage.
And in my opinion, at least the way I'm understanding this, if you're a part of a traditional brokerage that's not really offering guidance or much to other members, or let's say you're a part of a 100% commission thing, it is actually not in your best interest to bring other people into real estate. It is not in your best interest to have another person in your office if you're looking at it from like a cynical viewpoint, because that is direct competition to you. Someone can either choose to work with you or them. If you believed in the fact that like customers come here because of the name on the door,
100%.
If you believed in that theory, well, then what you're saying is you just added more people that need to pull from the same pot. I don't think like that. I think like there's a saying that one of our we hired an ex-FBI person as a mental coach here for our professional athletes who worked with our people for a little bit. And one of the things he said over and over was, winners focus on winning and losers focus on winners. And that's like a very, very true thing in life, is the person focusing on someone else. Oh my God, someone else is going to come in this company that's directly going to take from me, da, da, da. Those aren't the people that are real winners. Those aren't the people that are going to go to the top. Those are people that live in insecurity and fear from like, I'm not enough, and if anyone else comes in, that it is more challenge to me. Whereas winners are just like, man, like when you were first explaining this, I'm like, give me the 100% thing because it is me. They will choose to work with me or not. And it is my responsibility to show my value and worth to people to get them to want to come to me. But this new model incentivizes everyone to come together and give their best to each other so that your team creates more production, more revenue, more people come to your team. Your team has a larger sphere of influence. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I think in today's age, and I don't mean this, it's going to sound negative no matter how I say it. Not a lot of people pursue excellence. It's just a flat out reality. There's not a very small percent of our population pursue excellence. The people that are like, put me alone, and I will be successful. I'll build my business from the ground up. And because everyone needs people, but there's just not a lot of people like that. More often than not now, people want to feel supported. They want to be a part of something. They want to, like, their hard days, someone picks them up, and then maybe they can pick someone else on another day. So this model moving into the future seems like such a brilliant method for hitting the large masses of the population. You don't need the 1% that are the extremists. You can almost take anyone, mentor them, guide them, help build them, bring out the best in them, and it directly rewards you for doing so.
100%. It gives me a different avenue in real estate if I want to pursue it. All right, and that's the part about having an opportunity, right? Having options if you need it. Do you need to come to a brokerage and think you're going to go recruit agents? No, I didn't do it for the first 3 years I was with the brokerage, right? I worked on building my business, earning my way out of my 9 to 5. But guess what? That option was still there, right? Now I don't have to change anything in my business. Now that I'm focused on building this collective and tribe, now I just position a different activity in my day-to-day. Now I have something else that I'm working on to help build my real estate empire, not just here locally in Livingston County, it's nationally. We're working with agents all over the U.S. and internationally. Right? We have agents coming out. We have 2 new agents coming on board in Canada.
It is so brilliant. And instead of having a market that is this big that you're fighting over a little bit of territory, you have a national empire that you can make through people's skills and relationship building. You could host events and training events that captivate people's enthusiasm from all over the country that would want to come to you, be a part of your team, produce for you, for themselves and for you and for the team. And like the growth is unlimited in something like that. It could really become a level that most people couldn't even dream of in real estate. So I can see, I'm just sitting here and I'm not even in the real estate world. I can picture the big vision thing.
Yeah. And you know, most real estate agents who are destined to be successful, like if you want to be a successful person, you are going to find a way. You're going to be successful at the 100% brokerage, the traditional brokerage model, or a new brokerage model. It doesn't matter. Where there's a will, there's a way to be successful. Now, the game changer with this is now the successful people are being rewarded for their attractions. Because I know here locally, even in our community, some of the top producing agents, the brokerage is not attracting people over. That top producing agent is attracting people. And guess what? Chances are that brokerage did zero to make that person successful because they were destined to be successful no matter where they went.
And is this a shock? People aren't drawn to a name anymore, a company anymore. They're drawn to people. They're drawn to enthusiasm. They're drawn to passion. I constantly say people follow passion. If you are passionate and genuine, authentic, not faking it, people follow that. It invigorates them. It lights them up. It gets that spark going to make them think, maybe I could do this. You know what I mean? We need more of that, especially in a time now, which we don't have to get into this topic, that is more divisive than ever. We need people to come back together and start lighting sparks in each other instead of like beating each other over the head with a club about our differences. You know what I mean? Like you were out in our gym. I have every flags from countries all over the world hanging on the roof. It is painted on our wall out there. We are all one. Because beyond all the labels you want to put on yourself and your religious beliefs and your financial status and all these things, you're a human being looking for happiness in the world. Regardless of your skin color, your background, whether you lean left, you lean right, I don't care. I care about one factor: good, bad, good, evil, however you want to describe it. If you're doing horrible things or you're trying to do good things, and everybody has a scale of those things, and everybody makes mistakes, but like if you're a good person, I don't give a shit about what you believe, who you vote for, and we need more of that.
Yeah, what's the universal language? Comedy.
Yeah, like let's just come together more.
Right.
And so I love hearing about these team processes and building things. So I want to talk about the synergy. So is the other gentleman that you referred to earlier the person that you started True Living with, or did you start that independently?
Yeah, so my business partner, Wanakala, him and I started True Living Real Estate Group, brokered with EXP.
And that was just through relationship building online. You found synergy, and you were like, you know what, man, like you're going to be doing this, and I'm going to be doing this. Let's join forces.
Yeah, the funny thing is Juan and I never even met in person until he came to a listing appointment here in Michigan in the end of 2021. Right, we had started our partnership long before that, and we just worked so well. We're so used to working remotely, so used to working digitally. We had already developed that working relationship, and we ended up meeting in person for the first time not too long ago.
That's pretty awesome, man. That's like the person that plays Call of Duty online with a friend over and over and over, and then they finally meet in person. You can make extreme connection through distance because it's still a personal exchange. You know what I mean? So he was doing something in another state, and you were doing it here in Michigan, and then you guys merged, or was he just in another part of Michigan here?
Yeah, so he relocated from Metro Detroit to Tampa, Florida. And so we now have operations in Tampa, Florida, and Detroit, Metro Detroit here in Livingston County, Washtenaw County.
That's awesome. So now in the process of growing True Living Group, how do you attract these new people? How do you show people that this is great opportunity and team building? And like, because every company says, we're going to offer you support. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Like you were alluding to the old brokerages, and then you get there and you're like, where is it? How do you, in this modern world where people are, engaging with a million things every single day, how have you been growing True? What are the focuses of the company? If you had someone listening to this podcast that has maybe worked for traditional brokerages or maybe was considering getting their real estate license, why True Living Group? How do they contact you? How do they reach you? How do you reach people?
Yes, we've really done it naturally. I mean, we haven't gone out and tried to recruit a massive amount of agents. Not everybody is for the tribe that we are building, So we tell them that right up front. There is an opportunity that we want to talk to you about. If it's not for you, totally cool. We'll still be friends. But as a real estate professional, it is my duty to tell you about this opportunity. right? I'd be doing my family and your family a disservice if I didn't present this opportunity to you. So we just lead by example. We have a online community of people in our real estate all day community. So it's another community that we manage online. It's a group of over 2,000 agents that get together every single day on Clubhouse. They have a Good Morning Real Estate group that they literally prayer, worship, and talk about anything real estate related, and it's just a great support community where you can go have an unfiltered conversation, no judgment, no sales, no pitching, and just get some advice. So that's been a community that we've been building, as well as, just our social media online presence, right? Just leading by example, right? So we big fans of showing what we're doing, right? Showing our work, putting out coaching playbooks, if I learn something in real estate that's working well for me, just sharing that, with the community, sharing that with somebody. And there's so much information out there, and we're not saying anything groundbreaking. We're not saying anything new. We're just taking the same information and repackaging it, right? And saying it in a different way, because it's going to resonate differently with somebody that may be at my level, right? Maybe they don't want to hear it from a $100 million producing agent because oh, well, I'll never get to that. Maybe they want somebody that's a little bit more, in this price, in this range of where they're at. So we just try to meet people where they're at, and we're not heavy recruiters. We have enough people that reach out to us and ask us about what we're doing to naturally build our team.
I love that, and I would have guessed that about you. I love people that are not I need to keep anything that makes me successful to myself, because if I give that away, then other people, that's that same fear of not wanting to pull other people up. You're like, man, I'm going to put it out there. If I'm doing something and it's working for me and it's helping me, I'm going to put it out there. That is a very... it shows integrity. It shows your willingness to try to support other people. And those are the type of people you'd want to be on a team with. Do you want to be on a team with the person that's going to hide away all the things that they do well in the corner and tell you, yeah, good luck, produce for yourself? You know what I mean? We need more people that are willing to just put that openness, that almost vulnerability, being like, hey, this is how we're winning. So if you want to follow this model, this is what we do. If you want to be a part of the team, reach out to me.
Yeah, some of the best coaches in the entire world, you'll hear this from them, is they give away their best stuff for free. When you buy a program from a coach, you are literally getting a curated list of things to do. But if you go look at all their information and you watch all their courses and do their training, they're not saying anything different. They've just put it in a different structure for you to digest it.
And it's your brand. It's who you are. You just got to be recognizable. They got to know you. And then if you have good character and you have good work ethic and you hold true to your promises and stuff, then all of a sudden you're trustworthy. And if you're trustworthy, people want to be around you. And if they want to be around you, they want to work with you. So it's a cycle that more people need to understand. This is the future of direction. And it's funny. I run this place similar. You came in and said, I don't even know this place was here. I have not put one penny into Google ever. I don't advertise at all. I don't advertise. I don't even worry about it. We win consistently. We are producing high-level athletes. Word spreads organically through the community. The gym every night here, if you came in at 6 p.m., you will not find a single parking spot around this entire building or in the side. You're going to have to park out back. You're not because I allowed it to organically grow. I don't need to tell people to come in the gym. The effect that we have on the people that are a part of this community resonates outward. And you know what they do? They tell their friends. They tell their family. They tell the people they care about. So what does that do? It in turn attracts good people that want to be a part of a positive culture to the environment.
It's the right people.
I'm not advertising. We have a fight club here, and we kind of have fighters that beat people up. And if you want to do that, come here. Honestly, the last thing I want to walk in the door is people that would identify themselves as fighters or thugs. I want good human beings that would love to learn martial arts.
And it's funny you say that, because if you were to do that, right, say you did advertise and you got a bunch of people in here, you fill up your membership, you got more people in here than you can really handle. Now, what has that done for your business, right? You're now focused on making sure that the people who are the wrong fit for the gym that you have are happy, right? And you're spending your time worrying about these people who shouldn't be here in the first place.
1,000%. And that has to come from a confidence in yourself. You know what I mean? I don't need to be desperate out there being come train at my facility. I know what we offer. I know who we are. And I know the energy that I pour into the lives of the people around me. So that will authentically bringing the right people. The same way that you're like, listen, I'm not out there, shouting out, everybody come join this company. But I'm letting the right people say, you know what? True Living Group is a great choice for me. I know Juan. I know Eric. You know what? I know Eric's wife. I know Eric's best friend that he golfs with that said that, you know what? There's an opportunity here in real estate. Maybe I should look into that. That's authentic. And then your environment is so much better and so much more positive. It's easier to keep growing. You know what I mean? Like, as much as positive people create momentum, negative people do the same thing.
Yep.
Like, if you're around people that want to complain all the time or want to talk about what's not good enough, or they constantly know there's problems, but they're not working for solutions, that shit is infectious in a negative way.
It's exhausting.
And it's exhausting. Like, I am a high energy person. I wake up in the morning, I have a lot of energy, and I run myself into the ground usually by the end of the day. But that stuff, I got to get away from it because it creates like a negative driving force. You know what I mean?
Drain on you. Yeah, you just get it. I always tell all my clients this too. Like, I'll equate it to ice cream. Okay, I am not your flavor. I'm not everyone's flavor, right? And if I were to go out and market myself as vanilla, right? And vanilla, everybody, you would assume everybody likes vanilla. So you try to be this like very plain, individual, and you're marketing yourself very plainly, and you want to attract people who like vanilla. Well, you're gonna get some people in the door, right? You're gonna get a bunch of people in the door that like vanilla, but you're also gonna get a bunch of people in the door that actually really want a pralines pecan, but they'll settle for vanilla. Or you got a bunch of people who really like chocolate and like, oh, I'll settle for vanilla. So if I was pralines pecan, then just market myself as praline pecan. I'm going to attract the right people, and those people who wanted chocolate that came in because like, oh, I'll settle for vanilla, I don't have to worry about them anymore. They're totally outside of me. And this is me. Like, I show up to listing appointments in a hat, in a hoodie. Like, if you want the well-dressed, and yes, I'll put on a suit coat, but majority of the amount of time, you're going to see me in this attire. So if I show up to your house and I'm not what you're expecting, well, guess what? I'm not the agent for you.
Listen, if you watch this podcast, there is genius in what he just said. It's breaking it down to an analogy that a child could understand. But that authenticity of being who you are will attract the right people in your life. Like, how many coaches say, like, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are or who you are. That's the secret. That's the secret sauce right there, man. Yeah. When you're living from the heart about who you are as a human being, the right people come in your life. You know what the right people in your life does for you? It elevates your life.
Gives you so much more pleasure.
Fires you up.
Your vibe attracts your tribe.
100%. Whatever analogy, saying you want to use, there is such truth to that. So let's talk a little bit. You also you were the founder of the Facebook group Brighton, Michigan Happenings, right? Which is a group now with, I think, 22,000 people. I'm a member. You know what I mean? I've never posted in there, but someone invited me to the community, and I say, hey, I love Brighton. This is my community. This is, you know what I mean? I'd love to see anything that's going on. If anyone needs my help, always reach out to me. I'm a member of this community. What gave you the idea to launch it? Was it just basic networking? Hey, we live in the same area. We need to talk together. Did you expect it to blow up like it has? You're at 22,000 now. That thing's going to be at 100,000 in a couple of years. I hope you realize that.
Yeah, probably. So no, we literally launched it in 2016 when we had moved to the area. My wife and I had a newborn, and we were like, we know nobody here. We absolutely know nobody. We don't know any of the places to take kids, go do things. So we started this. We looked online. We just couldn't find anything. There was no resources. So we just started a Facebook group. So we started posting, what are some things to do on the weekend? What are the events going on? It seemed like we had to go seek out all the information all the time of like where the events are happening, like the Jazz Fest downtown, or like, the Smoke and Barbecue. Like, we had to go find those things. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if like we just had one central location for all of that, and we could just go in there and pop in and see it, or find a recommendation for something. So we just started it, and I literally did nothing with it for the first couple of years. It just kind of grew and grew and grew, and I would post in there. I'd kind of help bring some ideas and bring some things. But now it's 22,000 people, and I run into people all the time downtown Brighton, and like, hey, are you Eric? I'm like, yep. And like, you run the Facebook group. I'm like, yeah, that's me, So yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's been awesome to see, the community, but just like any online program or an online group, there is a lot of negativity. So we've gone through different phases with with a group of, we never used to have post approvals on. Now we have post approvals on. It's just me and my wife that run it. And frankly, really just me, as I'm giving my wife a break, it's like she doesn't even go in there a lot anymore. So it's really just me running it. We don't make any money off of it. It's not a profit group. My goal with it is to really be a place for people to come learn about Brighton, right? Learn about the things that are going on in Brighton, connect with people that are here in Livingston County. And that's not just Brighton. We call it Brighton, Michigan Happenings, but it's really Livingston County and the surrounding area. And really just come in there and be able to connect with humans, right? Have that mutual respect for people. So that's our goal with it. We'll see where it goes. We've done a couple spin outs of that and, done some subgroups in there for home renovations, trying to help people find, the right contractors because it's in such short demand right now. Nobody can find anybody to do any work. So, giving people and small businesses kind of a platform in there to help promote their business, try to find some work. So it's been really great. I know a lot of people have had a lot of success finding somebody to come do X, Y, and Z, where they would go contact some of the bigger companies and they just didn't have the time or resources to do it.
And I tell you what, after 2020, 35 million people got unemployed. Small businesses got absolutely massacred. I mean, the major corporations actually had some of the best profit margins ever, so they're not struggling. But bringing people back into a sense of community to support the people that are there for them, that are going to work for them, that are trying to provide for little kids at home, you know what I mean? And they don't know if they're going to make it. They don't know if they're going to get by. They depend on the support and the awareness that their community has for their services and products. It's a phenomenal thing because what 2020 showed us and all the divisiveness and everything that followed after is we have to kind of come back to that sense of like being there for each other, dialing back into our communities. You can't change the global scene quickly, but you can absolutely change your actions every day, which might interact with someone else and make their day a little bit better, which makes someone else a little bit better. And we radiate energy outward. So I love hearing about these homegrown, like, know your area, your services, connect with the people. Like, that's what we need. We need to be able to walk downtown Brighton and have a lot of people know each other and care about each other and see a human being and not see a label.
100%.
Democrat, blah, Republican, blah. Like, that shit is garbage. We need to start moving away from that. You know what I mean?
It's one of the things I hear most common when, people move here to Brighton. A lot of my clients who are relocating, they move to Livingston County, and they literally say, like, we visited downtown and the people are so nice. But then you have all those people here that, have a negative perception of Livingston County. And I'm like, that's not the Livingston County I know. Like, I'm a transplant here. The thing that cracks me up is like people complain about parking downtown Brighton. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, go to Metro Detroit, go to Ann Arbor, go somewhere where traffic and parking are real issues. Like, I've never had an issue finding parking downtown. I've been maybe like when a festival is going on, but literally never.
That goes back to the part of your story where I talked about stretching your experiences. If you've never left Brighton, Michigan, you might think that's traffic. If you've gone anywhere that's a major city, you're like, oh my God, we don't have traffic.
We have it so good.
We have it so good. But it's perspective, right? And like people live out their lives based on their perceptions. So a lot of the times, because I feel the same way about this community, I am so thankful and grateful and appreciative and happy to live in Brighton and in Livingston County. I love the people. I love the community. And I grew up in Philadelphia. I was born in Brill Street, Philadelphia, downtown. We moved right outside. And they call it the city of brotherly love. Stare at someone for 5 seconds in Philadelphia and watch how quickly the love is gone. They'll be like, what the f- are you looking at? It's a hostile environment. There's a lot of struggle there. There's a lot more poverty there. There's different dynamics there, right? This city is nothing like that. You could go up to a complete stranger and say, hey, my name's James. I just moved to the area. I was wondering, what's your favorite place to eat around here? And I would bet you 95% of the people are going to be, oh, man, I love to eat it, blah, 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 blah. They probably sit and have a full conversation with you.
Yep.
We need to be thankful for that. And when you get back to a sense of gratitude and real perspective about what you have versus what is out there, I think it helps ground people. And when we're a little bit less emotional and a little bit more logical, we tend to have better relationships and life experiences and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that we just experienced recently, which really, I heard this firsthand from one of the business owners downtown. A new business opened up. It's called the Sweet Girl. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I actually saw a post online about it. It was like a cookie shop or a bakery or something like that. I haven't seen the actual business yet, but I saw a post about it.
Yeah, so I'll give a shout out to Jennifer Perry. Her and her husband, James Perry, just opened the Sweet Girl, and it's right behind Great Harvest Bakery. And, they had posted in the Brighton, Michigan Happenings group about a month ago saying, hey, we're going to be opening in about a month. We have a soft opening. And we went in on the ribbon cutting day for the chamber and went through the ceremony and then got a chance to talk with them afterwards. Turns out we have so much in common. Like, they send their kids to the same school we do. And, we were just kind of, shooting the shit. She goes, oh, you're Eric who runs the group, right? I'm like, yes. She goes, I can't thank you enough. I posted in the group, and the amount of support and recognition and just reach out that we got was so overwhelming. Like, literally so overwhelming. She goes, that I think helped kickstart the business. So it's just so great to hear. I had nothing to do with it. Like, I didn't personally do anything, but that is the sense of community that allows
You did,
them.
though. You made that group, Eric. There's an Eric that exists in another world that doesn't take that initiative, because you're a person where, like, you don't want credit where you don't think it's fully earned. Like, you're just kind of like, no, that's not me, guys. That's just a community. You guys are doing that. But that shows the integrity that you have as a man, that you're not trying to be like, oh, yeah, I'm the one that had this brilliant idea, and thank God for me that if I didn't have this group and approve your post, you're not that dude. You're like, man, I started a group and it blew up, and I'm glad to help you. You know what I mean? But it shows that you are making a difference. That Facebook group is having an impact, and you're experiencing that. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing. And it's the same way you're trying to inspire others through your real estate, and you're trying to inspire others through this group. It's a reflection of who you are. So I can see you're like trying not to take credit for it, but you did create that. Without Eric getting on his keyboard and punching little things down, that group doesn't exist.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If I could stay behind the scenes all the time, I probably would, but I know that's not going to help me build my business. So I have to force myself. By nature, I'm an introvert, and it's moments like these where I'm the hybrid, right? I have to be the extrovert and really get out there, talk to people, and do those things. Like, nobody knows this about me, and I had one of my partners in this. They help run the Brighton Professionals and Entrepreneurs group, and it was our first event. And I'm up there kind of giving a little speech about, like, what this event is, what the group is, where we're taking this. And I'm literally chattering. I'm like, I can hear it in my voice of, like, I'm shaking and I'm nervous, speaking to this group of people. And afterwards, she was like, you're such a natural at that. I'm like, okay. If you could see inside, like, that is not me. So it takes a lot for me to kind of get out of that comfort zone and really put myself out there. But I know deep down, like, that's what I want to do. So, even though it's not my personality and I'm not comfortable in those situations, like, I want to be able to help, right? That's plain and simple.
That resonates with you. So it's worth pursuing. It's worth fighting those feelings. It's worth conquering that fear. It's worth putting yourself out there. It's worth the anxiety. It's worth the stress. You know what I mean? Because it resonates with you. And I have a extremely brief story I'll tell you. I do a lot of things, like I meditate. I have done all kind of things. I love the mind. I love trying to figure out myself, and I love trying to understand other people, and I love trying to have grace for people, for trying to understand what they've gone through, right? And that came later in life. When I was younger, I'm like, you're an asshole. Now I try to understand, like, why someone is who they are. One time I was in a flotation tank. Do you know what a sensory deprivation tank is?
Nope.
You float in a salt water. It's like an Epsom salt water where you're completely weightless, and it's the temperature of your body. It's sealed shut. It's completely dark. There's no sounds. So it deprives your senses. So sensory deprivation tank. Anyway, 90-minute experience, and I'm just floating in this tank, and just allowing my mind to kind of go where it wants. And this was years ago, and I came to this realization that was one of the most profound moments of my life, and has really opened a lot of doors for me and what I believe I'm capable of. And I don't know how my mind got to this, but the final thought that I got to, just allowing whatever came up to go, was all that we are in this life is what we believe ourselves to be. So if you are constantly having a narrative in your mind that I'm not the public speaker, I get too nervous, I'm not capable of that, then that is what you are. That story will control your life. That is the person that you will be. But if you change that story, whatever you believe yourself to be, and you believe yourself to be, I am Eric Meldrum, that is able to captivate audiences and speak to a large group of people and invoke emotion in people and bring out the best in them, then that is what you will become. And I had this like profound truth moment, which it's, in theory, it is such an incredibly simplistic idea. But the words vividly stuck with me out of that moment, that all we are is what we believe ourselves to be. And I try to teach that to my students and to people, like, listen, you want to change something about your life? Start on the deep-rooted issue on why you don't believe you're able to be that. Why are you not able to be the winner? Why are you not able to be the leader, the man speaking and captivating people, the business owner that's crushing it? Why? And if you can get down to the thoughts within yourself on what holds you back, you'll realize they're not true. Mm-hmm. You're a human being.
Absolutely.
So that right there, just hearing you tell that story and saying, like, I was feeling all these things, but I did it regardless because I know it's what resonates with me. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I would like to become. That's beauty, man. That we need more of that in this world. Less fear, more dream chasing.
Yep.
So I guess, by the way, we've done an hour and a half, right? Phenomenal conversation. I've absolutely enjoyed this podcast. But the thing I really want to kind of wrap this up with is, what are the goals for True Living Group? What are the goals for Eric Meldrum? What are the goals for the community? Just kind of like, if you had to envision the best 5 years from now, like, what is life going to look like? What does that look like for you?
Ooh, that's a good question. So my business, I'm a big fan of the EOS model. I'm not sure if you know what that is. So we've implemented the EOS model, and it's Gino Wickman. He's the author of EOS Life and the book Traction. You know, if you've ever read that, he's here actually local in Birmingham. So he has these exercises that we go through, and the whole premise of EOS is that you have in most business models, you have a visionary and you have an integrator, right? And you talked about a lot of that with the husband and wife dynamic of somebody, like, if you have two natural leaders, you know, in the same position, like, then you start stepping on toes, you know. So I've set up my business this way to really focus on bringing the right people in to do their highest and best use, whatever their superpower is. So we've been very selective about, you know, how we've structured this. And our goal is to build an organization, you know, within True Living Real Estate Group that agents can come into and do what they love to do, right? Not every agent gets into the business to do everything, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you're the marketer, you're the accountant, right? You're the lead gen guy. Like, you got to know how to do this. You got to be the software guru. Like, you know, everything and anything is like, you're doing everything. And the burnout rate in real estate is 85% of real estate agents in their first 2 years fail out of the business. All right. So if we can impact that in any way, locally or nationally, that's our end goal, right? We want to be able to help agents build a business, but if they're not meant to build their business, work on a team that can help build that business. And there's a lot of crappy teams out there, tons of crappy teams that, you know, like I said, the real estate agent became really successful, and now they need to hire an agent, and they think the best thing to do is just bring buyer's agents on and split everything 50-50, but that's not allowing the buyer's agent to do their highest and best. What if that agent's meant to work with sellers? What if they're an absolute listing boss and they can go crush it with listings? They don't deserve to be, they don't even need to be working with buyers. So our goal, you know, within the next 5 years is to have multiple teams, you know, starting with here in Metro Detroit and Tampa, and build this engine that we can basically pick up and put into a city like Philadelphia if we wanted to start a team where we have the lead gen, we have all the back end systems, we have everything already set up to where we just need to find the right people to let that machine run.
100%. That makes perfect sense to me hearing it. And it encourages you to know and understand your people. Because if you really invest in those people and you understand what they bring to the table, you know what role makes sense for them because you know them. It's not this like disconnect, like, oh yeah, just come on board the company and these are the responsibilities you have. If you learn your people, you're going to know how to use your people correctly for them to get the most success that they can experience and for it to be the best part for the team. You know what I mean? So it encourages leadership to engage more with even the base level people, which is a better product in general. That is what a team is supposed to be. Like, how many times have you heard the team is only as strong as the weakest link?
Right.
You're an example of that model. So, man, Eric, this has been a stellar podcast today, hour and a half long, a feature film we just shot. But it was a pleasure sitting here with you. I'm proud to have you in the community with us. We need more passionate, good people trying to steer things in the right direction. And, just if there's anything else you want to capture in this glimpse of time before we wrap it up, we will. If not, it was an honor having you, sir.
No, I just want to thank Jay for, bringing me into this. And, VetLife is a great organization. Look forward to supporting any way we can. We've worked a lot of vets in the past, and, we look forward to continuing that support, for him and his organization. And really just, anybody here locally in the community that, is looking to, build a business, build mentally in entrepreneurship or professional way. Like, I encourage you to reach out. I encourage you to join the Brighton Professionals and Entrepreneurs group, get into Brighton, Michigan happenings. There's a lot of cool things that a lot of people just don't know about, that are going on around here. And I think it's a great way to just connect with like-minded individuals who can really show you a different path or show you a different way, so you don't have to hit those struggles and hit those things that most entrepreneurs burn out for and end up failing out of whatever their goals and ambitions are. As chances are somebody's done it before you. Right? You can go online and find it, but there's nothing like really picking up the phone for somebody you like, respect, here in the community, going and grabbing coffee and learning how to do something. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show, and it was fun.
100%, man. Like I said, every little moment can change your life. That one conversation where they reach out to you could drastically alter the future for their family, for themselves, for everything. So, especially for the people that are searching. There's a lot of people out there searching. They're searching for opportunity. They're searching for people to believe in them. They're searching for this life to present them something where they can really jump in and give 100% or bring out the best in them. You know what I mean? Like Steve Jobs had a famous quote where he said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backward. So you just got to remember, stay the course, go for what you want, and, make it happen. So, Eric, thank you for joining me today, and we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, thank you, man.